Admiral Zekt'har of the Vorthak Empire stood before his command console, all four of his arms crossed in what he believed was an intimidating pose. His massive fleet of 200 warships hung in the void just beyond Earth's moon, ready to demonstrate why the Vorthak were the most feared conquerors in this arm of the galaxy. Primitive mammals, he sneered, his translator rendering his words into perfect standard galactic with just a hint of aristocratic disdain. Our intelligence reports indicate they've barely mastered spaceflight. Their orbital presence is negligible. A few communication satellites, some crude space stations. This will be over in minutes. His bridge crew chittered their agreement, mandibles clicking in the Vorthak equivalent of nervous laughter. They'd conquered 47 worlds in the past decade, and none had taken longer than a standard day cycle to subjugate. Earth would be their easiest victory yet. Begin orbital bombardment, Zekt'har commanded, his voice carrying the casual confidence of someone who'd never encountered actual resistance. Target their population centers. Show them the price of refusing our generous offer of vassalage. The first wave of plasma torpedoes streaked toward Earth's blue marble, their destructive potential enough to crack continents. Zekt'har watched the tactical display with satisfaction as his weapons approached their targets. Then something impossible happened. The torpedoes simply stopped. Not deflected, not destroyed, just stopped. As if they'd hit an invisible wall that absorbed their energy completely. Weapons Officer Grax, Zekt'har said slowly, his confidence wavering for the first time in decades. Why are our torpedoes floating motionless in space? Grax's 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a clear sign of Vorthak confusion. Sir, I'm detecting some kind of energy barrier. It appears to be everywhere. Everywhere. Me. The entire planet is surrounded by overlapping defensive fields. Multiple layers, sir. I count at least 50 distinct energy signatures. Zekt'har's mandibles twitched. Impossible. Our intelligence clearly stated. Sir, interrupted communications officer this, her voice pitched higher than usual. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. The human was holding what looked like a beverage container and seemed remarkably unconcerned about the massive alien fleet hanging over his planet. Hello there, the human said pleasantly. This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earth's Orbital Defense Command. I'm assuming you're here about the whole surrender or be destroyed thing you broadcast earlier. Just wanted to let you know we got your message. Also, your aim is terrible. Commander Jake Morrison took another sip of his coffee and glanced at the tactical display showing 200 alien warships in high orbit. Another Tuesday morning at the office, apparently. Sir, called out Lieutenant Tom Rodriguez from the communications station, the aliens are still transmitting surrender demands. Should I respond? Nah, let them work it out, Jake replied, settling back in his command chair. Has anyone seen Dr. Vasquez? I want to make sure she's not planning to activate the fun stuff without authorization again. Define fun stuff, came a voice from the elevator. Dr. Luna Vasquez emerged, her lab coat covered in what looked like coffee stains and scorch marks. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun secured with what appeared to be a plasma torch, and she carried a tablet that was sparking intermittently. The usual, Jake said dryly. Anything that might accidentally vaporize our uninvited guests before we're done laughing at them. Luna grinned, the expression making her look slightly unhinged. Oh, you mean the orbital deterrence grid? Don't worry, I've got it set to gentle warning mode. They're not even feeling the full defensive field yet. Gentle warning? Lieutenant Rodriguez looked confused. Sir, their weapons aren't even reaching the atmosphere. Exactly, Luna said cheerfully. Gentle. If I turned up the power, their torpedoes would be bouncing back at them. This way, they just get to watch their million-credit plasma charges float around uselessly like angry fireflies. Jake's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. Luna, please tell me you didn't base our planetary defense grid on the principle of maximum humiliation. Well, not maximum, she said defensively. That would be overkill. I based it on the principle of proportional response with comedic timing. Much more reasonable. The main screen crackled to life again, showing the same alien admiral from before. This time he looked considerably less confident. His forearms were gesticulating wildly, and his translator was struggling to keep up with what sounded like very creative profanity. Human Morrison, the admiral snarled, you will lower your defenses immediately. We are the mighty Vorthak Empire, conquerors of worlds, and we will not be mocked by a primitive species that has barely escaped its own gravity well. Jake looked at Luna, who was now openly giggling while watching her tablet. How long have we had those orbital platforms online? Which ones? She asked innocently. The ones that are currently making their weapons look like expensive fireworks. Oh, those. About 30 years. Give or take a decade. I lose track. Jake turned back to the screen. Admiral, sorry, I didn't catch your name. It sounded like someone sneezing in a garbage disposal. I am Admiral Zekt'har of the... Right, Zekt'har. Here's the thing, Admiral Zekt'har. We've been expecting you guys for about 40 years now. Not you specifically, but you know, generically hostile aliens with delusions of grandeur. We've had time to prepare. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated you had no significant orbital presence. Luna snorted. Intelligence. That's adorable. Tom, bring up the orbital survey for our new friends. Admiral Zekt'har was beginning to suspect that his intelligence reports might have been slightly inaccurate. The realization hit him about the same time as Lieutenant Blex's increasingly panicked status updates. Sir, Blex whispered, his voice trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. I'm detecting additional structures in Earth's orbital space. Define additional, Zekt'har growled, though he was beginning to dread the answer. Well, sir, remember how our reports mentioned a few communication satellites and maybe a space station or two? Yes. They appear to have been conservative estimates. The tactical display updated, and Zekt'har felt his confidence drain away like atmosphere from a breached hull. Where moments before the screen had shown empty space around Earth, now thousands of contacts appeared. Massive structures, weapons platforms, and what looked like entire cities floating in the void. How many? He whispered. Counting, sir, Blex said, his voice getting higher with each passing second. 1,000, 2,000, sir, they're everywhere. Hidden behind some kind of stealth field that's just been deactivated. Stealth field? More like a we didn't want to scare the neighbors field, came the human's voice from the communication channel. You're looking at about 15,000 orbital platforms, 300 space stations, and roughly 50,000 defensive satellites. Oh, and the 12 mobile battle stations, but those are just for show. Zekt'har's legs gave out, and he collapsed into his command chair. 15,000? Give or take a few hundred, the human replied cheerfully. We've been building them for decades. Turns out when you're constantly worried about alien invasion, you tend to over-prepare. It's like buying insurance, except the insurance shoots back. Lieutenant Blex was now openly hyperventilating. Sir, I'm detecting massive power signatures from the platforms. They're not just defensive installations. What are they? Weapons, sir. Very large weapons. Some of them appear to be, sir. I think one of them is the size of a small moon. The human's voice cut through their panic. Oh, that's just the big stick. Dr. Vasquez insisted on the name. It's our planet cracker. You know, in case someone shows up with a planet cracker and we need to crack their planet cracker before they can crack our planet. Zekt'har's mandibles were clicking so rapidly they sounded like a broken data processor. You have a weapon designed to destroy planet-destroying weapons? Well, technically it's designed to destroy weapons designed to destroy planet-destroying weapons, but it works on regular planet destroyers too. Versatile engineering. Sir, Blex whimpered, what are our orders? Zekt'har stared at the tactical display, watching as more and more human installations revealed themselves. His supposedly mighty fleet looked like a collection of toys floating in an ocean of death machines. Sir? Blex pressed. I'm thinking, Zekt'har snapped, though what he was really doing was trying to remember if the Vorthak Empire had a protocol for accidentally picked a fight with a species that turned their entire orbital space into a fortress. They didn't. Commander Jake Morrison finished his coffee and glanced at the chronometer on his console. 0930 hours. He'd promised his wife he'd be home by 6 to help with their daughter's science project about orbital mechanics. The irony wasn't lost on him. Luna, he called out, I think our guests are starting to understand the situation. Should we give them the full tour? Dr. Vasquez looked up from her tablet, where she'd been monitoring the aliens' increasingly frantic communications. Oh, absolutely. I've been waiting years to show someone my masterpiece. Tom, activate the welcome wagon protocol. Lieutenant Rodriguez's finger hovered over his console. Sir, are you sure? The welcome wagon tends to cause psychological trauma in first-time viewers. They'll be fine, Jake said dismissively. It's not like we're activating the Goodbye Cruel World protocol. There's a Goodbye Cruel World protocol? Rodriguez asked nervously. You don't want to know, Luna said with a grin that would have made a shark nervous. The main screen flickered as the display updated to show Admiral Zekt'har's bridge. The alien commander looked like he'd aged several decades in the past few minutes, and his crew appeared to be in various stages of panic. Admiral, Jake said pleasantly, we thought you might appreciate a better view of our little neighborhood. Luna, would you care to explain what they're looking at? Luna bounded over to the communications station like an excited child on Christmas morning. Oh, this is going to be fun. Admiral Zekt'har, what you're seeing is the result of about 60 years of human paranoia and engineering excellence. After we figured out space travel, we immediately started worrying about who else might be out there. So you built weapons platforms, Zekt'har said weakly. Oh, we built so much more than that, Luna said, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. We built orbital factories to build more weapons platforms. Then we built weapons platforms to guard the factories. Then we built factories to build weapons platforms to guard the factories that build weapons platforms. It's recursive engineering at its finest. Jake shook his head. Luna, you're going to give them nightmares. Too late, she said cheerfully. Admiral, see that structure about 10,000 kilometers off your starboard bow? That's Manufacturing Station Delta 7. It can produce 50 defensive satellites per day. We have 437 of those stations. The alien admiral made a sound that the translator rendered as gurgling despair. And the really beautiful part, Luna continued, is that everything is automated. The factories build the weapons protect the factories, and the whole system is powered by solar collectors that are also weapons platforms. It's like a self-sustaining ecosystem of protective violence. How long? Zekt'har whispered. How long what? How long have you been building this? Luna consulted her tablet. Well, we started seriously after the first radio telescopes detected artificial signals from other star systems. That was about 1967. Then we got really motivated after the WOW signal in 1977. By the time we had reliable fusion power in the 2040s, we were building platforms faster than we could count them. 80 years. Zekt'har's voice cracked. Give or take, Jake said. We're thorough. Some might say obsessively thorough. Our motto is better safe than sorry, And if you're going to be safe, you might as well be ridiculously, overwhelmingly, absurdly safe. Sir. Junta. Came Lieutenant Blex's voice, barely audible over the background noise of what sounded like several crew members having nervous breakdowns. I'm detecting more structures. They're everywhere, sir. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris. It's all been converted into weapons platforms. Luna clapped her hands together. Oh, you found the debris field network. I'm particularly proud of that one. Every piece of space junk bigger than a softball has been converted into a kinetic weapons platform. We call it the Litterbug Defense Grid. Admiral Zekt'har's career had been built on calculated risks and overwhelming force. Unfortunately, his current situation involved neither calculation nor overwhelming force on his side. His fleet of 200 warships, which had seemed so impressive when facing other galactic civilizations, now looked like a collection of parade floats surrounded by a hurricane of death machines. Sir, Lieutenant Blex said, his voice barely a whisper, the crew is requesting permission to surrender. Denied, Zekt'har snarled, though his hearts weren't really in it. The Vorthak Empire does not surrender to primitives. Sir, with respect, I'm not sure primitives is the right term for a species that's turned their entire orbital space into a weapons platform. They're bluffing, Zekt'har said, though he was beginning to sound like he was trying to convince himself more than his crew. All of this is just for show. They wouldn't actually use weapons of this magnitude against a diplomatic mission. Sir, Blex said carefully, we did threaten to destroy their planet. Details, Zekt'har waved dismissively. Prepare the fleet for a full assault. All weapons, maximum power. If they want to play games, we'll show them what real military might looks like. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of mandibles clicking nervously. Finally, Weapons Officer Grax spoke up. Sir, are you absolutely certain about this course of action? Fire, Zekt'har commanded. 200 Vorthak warships opened fire simultaneously. The concentrated plasma barrage was enough to sterilize a continent, reduce mountains to glass, and generally make a very bad day for anyone on the receiving end. It was a display of force that had brought dozens of civilizations to their knees. The weapons struck Earth's defensive grid and simply disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed, just gone. Like they'd never existed at all. Weapons Officer Grax, Zekt'har said slowly, why did our weapons just vanish? Sir, I believe they were eaten. Eaten? Eaten? The defensive field appears to have some kind of matter conversion capability. Our plasma charges were converted to energy and fed back into the grid. The human's voice crackled over the communication channel, sounding genuinely impressed. Wow, that was actually a pretty good light show. Luna, what was the energy yield on that? About 12 terawatts, came the scientist's voice. Thanks for the free power, Admiral. We'll add it to the grid. You're welcome, Zekt'har said automatically, then caught himself. Wait, no, we're not welcome. We're attacking you. Yeah, about that, the human commander said. We've been monitoring your communications and we have to ask, what exactly was your plan here? I mean, besides the whole surrender or die thing? Zekt'har's mandibles clicked rapidly. Standard conquest protocol. Demand surrender, demonstrate superior firepower, establish colonial administration. Right, but you didn't actually scout us properly, did you? We had intelligence reports. From who? The Galactic Intelligence Consortium. There was a pause, then the sound of human laughter. Oh, those guys. Yeah, they stopped by about 10 years ago. We gave them a tour of our agricultural stations and a few communication satellites. Figured there was no need to mention the other stuff. Other stuff? You know, the 15,000 weapons platforms, the automated defense grid, the planet cracker, the asteroid mining operations that are also weapons platforms, The orbital factories that build weapons platforms. The lunar installations that are definitely not weapons platforms but absolutely are weapons platforms. Lieutenant Blex was now openly weeping. Sir, I'm detecting new contacts. Massive ones. Define massive, Zekt'har said, though he was beginning to understand that every time he asked that question, the answer was going to be worse than he expected. Sir, they appear to be battle stations, mobile ones. They're emerging from behind the moon. The tactical display updated, and Zekt'har felt his last reserves of dignity crumble. 12 structures, each the size of a small city, were moving toward his fleet with the inexorable patience of celestial bodies. Admiral, the human's voice said, meet the neighborhood watch. They're usually parked behind the moon, but they wanted to come out and say hello. Admiral Zekt'har had commanded fleets across 17 star systems, conquered 47 worlds, and been personally decorated by the Emperor for his tactical brilliance. None of that preparation had included dealing with a species that had apparently spent the better part of a century turning their entire solar system into a fortress. Sir, Lieutenant Blex whispered, the crew is, well, sir, they're hiding under their stations. All of them? All of them, sir. Weapons Officer Grax is currently in the emergency supply closet, and I can hear him praying to the void spirits. Zekt'har looked at his tactical display one more time, hoping against hope that something had changed. Instead, he was greeted by the sight of 12 city-sized battle stations arranging themselves in a perfect sphere around his fleet. Each one was bristling with enough weapons to crack a moon, and they were all pointed directly at him. Admiral, came Commander Morrison's voice, still infuriatingly casual, we're going to need you to make a decision here. Our morning shift ends in about an hour, and the afternoon crew gets a bit trigger-happy. Trigger-happy? Zekt'har croaked. Oh yeah, Dr. Vasquez chimed in. The night shift is worse. They've been practicing with the new antimatter lance arrays, and they're just itching to field test them on something fleet-sized. Zekt'har began, then stopped. His entire worldview had collapsed in the span of 30 minutes. I formally request permission to withdraw. Permission granted, Morrison said cheerfully. Safe travels, Admiral. Oh, and next time you're planning to invade someone, maybe do a little more research first. Research? Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe check if they've spent the last 80 years turning their entire orbital space into a death trap before you show up demanding surrender. Just a thought. Zekt'har's fleet began its retreat, moving as quickly as their drives would allow while still maintaining some semblance of military dignity. As they reached the edge of Earth's orbital space, Lieutenant Blex spoke up one last time. Sir, we're receiving a final transmission from the planet. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing both humans standing in what looked like a control room. Behind them, technicians were going about their business with the casual efficiency of people who'd just finished dealing with a minor inconvenience. Admiral Morrison said, just so you know, we've updated our records to reflect that the Vorthak Empire isn't actually a threat. We're downgrading you from potential invasion force to mildly annoying tourists. Congratulations. Additionally, Dr. Vasquez added, we're sending you a data packet with our current orbital infrastructure specifications. Feel free to share it with anyone else who might be thinking about dropping by uninvited. As Zekt'har's fleet jumped to hyperspace, fleeing Earth's system as quickly as their damaged pride would allow, the data packet arrived. Lieutenant Blex opened it with trembling hands. Sir, he said after a moment, according to this report, what we saw today represents approximately 12% of their total defensive capability. 12%? Yes, sir. The other 88% is classified as unnecessarily excessive and is only activated for serious threats to planetary security. Admiral Zekt'har stared out at the stars, contemplating a universe where humans had apparently decided that the appropriate response to the possibility of alien invasion was to build enough weapons to destroy a small galaxy. Somewhere behind him, he could hear Weapons Officer Grack still praying to the Void Spirits. He was beginning to think the Void Spirits might want to consider hiding too. Back on Earth, Commander Morrison finished his coffee and glanced at his watch. 1,030 hours. He'd still make it home in time for dinner. Luna, he called out, remind me to update the welcome protocols. I think we can add a section about proper invasion etiquette. Already on it, she replied, not looking up from her tablet. I'm thinking something like, please schedule your conquest attempts at least 48 hours in advance and bring sufficient firepower to make it interesting. Perfect, Morrison said. Tom, make sure the afternoon shift knows they missed all the fun. Will do, sir. Should I mention that we're expecting more visitors? Probably. Word tends to get around about these things. And indeed, across the galaxy, the story of Admiral Zekt'har's humiliating retreat was already spreading. The Galactic Intelligence Consortium was hastily updating their files on Earth, adding several thousand new entries under the category reasons not to invade the humans. Meanwhile, on Earth, the orbital platforms returned to their regular duties of manufacturing more orbital platforms, just in case the next visitors brought friends.